All right. Finally, we are live. Oh my goodness. So sorry about that, you guys. My apologies for a bit of a delay. Just checking some settings really quick. Make sure that we are good. All right. Everything looks good. Excellent. Excellent. Just always have to make sure. Good morning, you guys. Ow. Bang my elbow. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever in the world you might be. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being here. I am super excited to finally be back and having this Q&A. I hope you all had a lovely Easter weekend last weekend. Hello, Chi-chan. Hi. May we all have a wonderful day indeed. Yes. Hi, Priscilla. Hi, Lissy. Hi, Mohammed. Apollo. Hi. Thank you guys for being here. And again, thank you so much for your patience. My apologies for a bit of that delay. My my computer was trying to not cooperate, and I'm kind of done with technical difficulties. So despite the blue screen of death, was able to fix this and get on today because nobody's got time for that. Hello. Your makeup is wonderful. Oh, thank you, Thank you, Chi-chan. I will. I guess I'm gonna have to do a tutorial. I've had a lot of requests for one, so yeah. Maybe I'll do some kind of self-care, talking about the law while doing makeup or something. I don't know. I gotta flesh that out, but I will do a tutorial soon because I've had a lot of people request one, so that will happen. Hello, you guys. Hello. Hello, Bijou. Hello, Brit. Yes, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. Yes. Yeah. Last weekend, Easter weekend, I was out in Tahoe, out in the wilderness a little bit, so service was, hit or miss. And then my computer tried to act up today, but, I'm not having it. Not having it. Mina, hi. Hello. Courtney, oh my gosh, yay, my favorite people. Mimi. Yay. Hello, everyone. Oh, this is gonna be fun. I'm excited. This is gonna be fun. We're gonna go ahead and jump in just a second. I wanna give it just maybe 30 seconds or 30 seconds or so just to allow people to, get the notification and come on in who wanna join, and we'll jump into some Q&As here in just a second. I hope you guys are having an awesome weekend. I hope your Sunday is super lazy. I did see your question, Jana. Yes. And I do wanna make sure to cover some of the questions. Since I wasn't able to go live last week, I know a few people had left questions. I'm just pulling that up right now. A few people had left questions underneath the post that I had made. So I did see that. I'll make sure to grab that guy today. Dun, dun, dun. One moment, guys. There we go. Excuse me. Manny, hello. John, hi. Oh, this is going to be fun. All right, we've already got quite a few questions coming in, so let's go ahead and get started, guys. Welcome. Welcome again. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining. It is good to be back. It is still good to be back. Last weekend was a no-go, unfortunately. I was trying to make it on for Easter. I hope you all had a lovely Easter Sunday regardless. I hope you had a good weekend. Um, let me just check. Okay. Okay. Thought I saw the settings acting wonky, but we're good. Just as a quick announcement, I guess before we jump in, since I know we are all gearing to get started, um, as always, I've got a ton of resources and information down below. I do have a waiting list currently for one-on-one coaching, but if you are interested in signing up on that waiting list, you can find that down below. I've got courses and programs and all that fun jazz. So if you are interested in gathering more, potentially working together, all of that is in the description box. So with that said, let's see. Let's jump into some questions. And if I seem hyper, it's because 'cause I've had a lot of caffeine so far this morning. So that's why. And still having more. Oh, thank you, Bijou. Thank you. It was my absolute pleasure. I love being here and I love sharing everything, everything I can with all of you. Oh, awesome, great April. I'm glad that worked out. The later time has benefited me because I just only now got home. Well, perfect. I'm glad that worked out. Bijou, you have a really good question here. Um, Yeah, no, this one's really good. I certainly got this one a lot. I'm wondering about apologies. I feel compelled to apologize for my part of the reaction that I had, explaining what I was feeling, etc. And another part of me is saying that it won't do anything and it's just putting more focus on an undesirable situation. Better to just do it in imagination as an inner conversation or revise. So basically, what should we do about apologies? And I think you're specifically referring to apologies in the 3D, right? From how you worded it there. So how should we navigate that? What should we do about that? And I think that's an important question because, well, it's one a lot of us grapple with, especially in circumstances where we're manifesting a specific person. It could be that we're really hurt, we are really frustrated, we may be feeling guilt over our own actions. So, yeah, I know there's a lot that we grapple with there. Um, and really, which I absolutely agree that if we're feeling a very strong urge or a very strong need, or if it feels like we absolutely must receive an apology or apologize, I would do so in imagination. I'm not so keen on taking actions in the 3D, unless we're really checking in with ourselves first. Because again, the 3D is nothing but it's the projection. It's all projection. So, and as far as even as far as that goes, if we are able to, the best thing that we can do in those circumstances is revise it. Um, because it is, on the one hand, true that to manifest or imagine an apology is implying that there was an undesirable situation, but at the same time, it also implies a resolve of said situation. So if you're able to, I recommend revising the, you know, the outcome of what happened, revising it so that there was no falling out or fight that took place or anything hurtful that was said, things like that. If it feels very challenging to do so, if it feels like you really do need that apology to be able to mend and move forward, then I would do it in imagination. Yeah. but taking action in the 3D before we do anything up here is to labor in vain, as Neville would say. I hope that helps. I managed to make the quantum leap I wanted so much. It wasn't for a long time, but I'm sure I experienced another reality. That's amazing. Yes, yes. Chi-chan, that's awesome. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Welcome to a whole 'nother new wild world, quite literally. That is so amazing. Oh, thank you, SJ. Your My Specific Person manifestation success story video is the best. Thank you. Thank you. What a long journey it was. Oh my goodness, thank you for the super chat. We are all dragons. Thank you. I realized this week that my fear of getting hurt still holds me back from love. How do I get past the fear of getting hurt slash being disappointed? Yeah, that's sadly it is a yeah, it's a tricky one. Kudos and seriously, it is wonderful to see the observation and becoming aware of certain things that have created circumstances in the past so that we are able to best navigate going forward. Um, so kudos for that, first and foremost. Um, and how do we get past the fear of getting hurt? Well, I mean, the ways that I would go about that, the ways that I did go about that, really, uh, revision being one of them. And anyone who watches my channel knows I talk about it all the time, and there's a reason for that. But revising particular instances, if there are things that especially stand out as moments that had an impact on us, had an impact on you, um, there goes my cat. Anything that felt like it left a mark, it left a reaction, maybe anything that comes to mind to you. Like we tend to have flashbacks of bad memories and events of things that really did leave that impression on us. So revising that, and also beginning to imagine and see yourself as the very best version of you, right? So who do you want to show up as in this world of Caesar? Who do you want to be? Somebody who is confident and fearless in love? Well, start getting familiar with what exactly that looks like, what that feels like, right? Start to imagine scenes where you're hearing people compliment you for how radically you've grown and how much you've changed and all of the things that confirm and imply, right? Confirm and imply the desired change that we want to see within. But I would continue to just build that state and prepare that place and just keep going back and conditioning it. Because the same way that we formed the negative assumption, the limiting assumption, we can form a ideal assumption instead, and we do it in the same exact way. Oh, hang on, you guys. I gotta let my cat out. She's being a diva. One sec. Sorry about that. But I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. But ultimately, know that you can overcome anything. No matter what the fears are, no matter what the fears try to tell you, you can overcome anything. Literally anything. Oh, awesome, TJ. Awesome. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining that list. I look forward to it too. Yes. Can you explain why it's possible to manifest an SP and why they don't have free will? I lack faith in manifesting a specific person, but I believe I can attract love in general. That is a really good question, Emma. And I actually strongly recommend that you check out a couple of videos that I made about manifesting a specific person. If you type in the search bar on YouTube, Missy Renee manifest an SP, I go into great detail as to how it is possible, why it is possible, um, the illusion of free will, because it is an illusion. I know that it's a giant pill to swallow and it's a harsh pill to swallow at first, but when we do understand that there is a quantum universe here, we are living and experiencing things on multiple levels, right? There's infinite versions of everyone. So the only one changing in our reality is us. It's us. It's just us. That's it. So it's possible to manifest a specific person because there are infinite versions of that person in infinite realities because we live in infinite parallel realities, right? Creation is finished. So all scenarios, all things, past, present, future, all outcomes, every event, all of these, anything that you can think of, anything that you can imagine, quite literally, already exists in one of infinite realities to experience. Um, so that's the long and short of it. But I do go into a lot more detail in those videos. So yeah, you should definitely check it out. And I mean, it's absolutely wonderful that, at the very least, you have the faith in manifesting love. But yeah, it is absolutely you can absolutely manifest a specific person. Yeah, I'm living proof. I lost my spot. Sorry, one sec, guys. Missy, I reacted to my 3D circumstances with SP this weekend. In the process of getting back to a better feeling state, but still feeling cringy and frustrated with myself. Oh, Bijou, I'm so sorry. I know that wasn't necessarily a question, but I did want to address that because we all have those moments. We all have those moments. I love that you are focused on the process of getting back to that ideal state. Um, but yeah, but do be kind to yourself right now. I know that it's incredibly frustrating when we react, when we do something unwanted or something unwanted happens in the 3D. I mean, Lord knows everybody here knows the frustration of that, but do be kind to yourself. Do be kind to yourself because we all do it. We all have human moments, and that's okay. At the end of the day, we're still having a human experience, and reactions happen no matter, right? So just be kind to yourself. That's all I want to say. Dear Missy, I am manifesting my relationship with my SP back. I have absolutely no problems imagining us back together, but I have difficulties believing it can happen. What can I do? That is a good question, Luna. I love your name, by the way. That's a really good question, Luna. So you don't have any resistance to imagining you and your person back together, but there is resistance to believing that it can happen. Yeah, yeah, that's very common. And at first, for the vast majority of people, we're not gonna believe that it can happen, and not 100% anyway. Um, yeah, double-mindedness is, uh, it's rampant when when we're introducing this new way of thinking. Um, but yeah, and it's not even that you have to believe with full conviction before it can happen, right? We don't have to have, like, complete and total faith, unshakable faith before it'll happen, before it can show up in the 3D. That's a common misconception that people have. It's nothing like that. The best thing that we can do in those kinds of situations, honestly, is test the law. Continue to build faith in the law. Continue to observe the law in the day to day, right? Continue to note the relationship between the inner world and the outer world. Um, and through that means, by that method, you're going to naturally become more and more solidified in that state of the wish fulfilled. You're going to be able to better suspend disbelief, right? That this is possible or that this could happen and anything like that. Um, but really, no matter right now, just continue to imagine regardless. Continue to go there in imagination. If you're not having resistance to that, that is awesome. I would continue to do so. Like, keep going back there in imagination, seeing that end, living in that end. And you're going to find you're going to naturally start to gravitate more and more to the idea that not only is this possible, but this is happening, right? You're introducing a new state of consciousness. You're introducing yourself to a new state of consciousness through your imaginal acts. So keep imagining for sure. And in the meantime, also continue to build your faith. Continue to build your trust in the law because once that happens, you are literally unstoppable. Quite literally. Oh, I'm so sorry, Bijou. I think you just had a long question. I'm so sorry. You had to break it up. Take responsibility. I'm in this weird limbo where I can completely see how he reflected back to me my assumptions about him and myself in the triggering moment. Solution: go within. And another part of me isn't feeling good about not doing something externally in the 3D to make things better, i.e., apologize. Okay, I'm seeing what you're saying here. I'm seeing what you're saying here. Like, I should take responsibility or say I was wrong in my interpretation of things, etc. Any thoughts on this? Took me so long to send this. Sorry, you're no, 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 you're fine. You're fine. I'm so sorry. I didn't see the full question. I just got to the first part. So, but yeah, apologies. Taking action in the 3D is it's a very natural ego response. Like that is purely from the ego. Like, I need to do something about this. I need to fix this. I need to make things right. That's purely out of habit, right? Um, and it's wonderful that you wanna do so, but as far as the best result to come out of that, like, the way to the best route possible, the way to the best outcome possible is through imagination. So, yeah, like I said earlier, I would either imagine an apology, I would imagine, you apologizing to them, and imagine a beautiful reconciliation. If you really feel like you need to do something, I would do it there. Yeah. I hope that helps. Sorry if that was confusing because I only got to have your question earlier. I'm interested in trying out the latter experiment, but replacing it with finding a 1 pound coin. Can I imagine in meditation during the day? Or is that one pence? Was that a pence? Sorry. I'm very American. Can I imagine it in meditation during the day, or do I need to do it before falling asleep at night? You can absolutely imagine it during the day, although, mm, typically speaking, okay, let me back up for a minute, because typically speaking, yes, we can always go into meditation as well as, you know, when it comes to doing sats or an imaginal scene, like with anything like that, you can do it in meditation. So I will say that. I will say that yes, you can do it in meditation during the day if it's easier to do so. Um, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I know in the latter experiment, Neville does talk about taking it into sleep with you, but he also says, and from my own experience, testing both taking things into sleep and just doing sats and meditation, they're both effective. They're both effective. So, yeah, absolutely put it to the test. Absolutely. And yeah, whether that's imagining before bed or during the day in meditation, whatever resonates and works best for you. You are so oh, Chi-chan, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy. Goat girl, here she is. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. If I was the one that placed us in no contact by not replying to SP quite some time ago, I was mad. I should I reopen the lines of communication by reaching out? Some coaches say I'm messing with the middle. Um, so if I was the one that placed us in no contact by not replying to SP quite some time ago, should I reopen the lines of communication by reaching out? Um, I would anytime that you are considering an action to take in the 3D, I would just first note where it's stemming from. Are you feeling more naturally inspired to do so? Are you feeling, relaxed and good about doing that? Or is it a feeling stemming from somewhere like anxiousness, fear that the only way that contact can be achieved is by reaching out? Like, is it basically asking yourself, is this drive to do something driven by fear? Um, because the truth is, regardless of who decided the no contact, um, it honestly doesn't matter. Like, if you continue to go to the end in imagination, there will be a reconciliation. There will be communication again. Like that is naturally something that would have to unfold on the bridge of events, right? Um, so yeah, I would see first and just really take a good look at where that might be stemming from. Is it coming from a place of fear, or is it coming from a place of you're feeling very good about this, you're feeling like this is something you're being moved to do, right? Basically what some might call inspired action or not. Um, and go from there, right? Because we are absolutely motivated and moved sometimes to do things in the 3D. Like when we have a desire and we are being led on the bridge of events, there's times where we absolutely will have to take an action, but it seems to stem from a place that it just feels like the most natural thing in the world to do, right? Like so things like that. It's not that we cannot ever like literally move or literally lift a finger. Um, no. it but basically we do wanna pay attention to where that urge is coming from. Like, if we're feeling moved to do something, where is that stemming from? That's all. And I would act accordingly up in here in imagination. Missy Love. Hello, mindfulness. Why I don't feel any need to manifest the person I want before. Like I don't want him, but not with that desperation. Why is that? I'm a little bit confused by your question, mindfulness, but um if I am understanding correctly, why do you not feel the need to manifest the person I wanted to before? Oh, you mean like exes and things like that? Why do we not have a desire to manifest people from before, the past? Um, well, if it's not a desire to do so, then it's not an experience that you're meant to have. It really is simple as that. Yeah. Desires are a gift. That is, basically when we are meant to experience something in this 3D world, we will be gifted through the means of desire. We will have a desire for something. And if we don't have a desire for something, like if we don't want that person anymore, if there's no desire to be with that person anymore, well, it's because we're not meant to have that experience again. Quite simply. I hope that makes sense. Can we manifest an SP, excuse me. Can we manifest an SP if we are unsure if we want them back or not? Does not being 100% sure serve as a block? I'm unsure about a specific person or starting from scratch with a new person. That is a really good question, Emma. So, can we manifest an SP back if we are unsure? The first thing that I would do is get clear on why that is, right? Um, because we do want to define our aim to the best of our ability, right? I mean, we may not know every single tiny detail as to what everything looks like, or we may not know every single tiny detail of the desire that we have. Um, but in this case, if you're unsure about manifesting an SP versus manifesting somebody new, I guess I would ask, well, you know, where is that uncertainty stemming from? For example, do you not want to manifest your SP back because you don't think it's possible to do so? Is there, fears around that not being a thing? So basically, fear of failure or disappointment or disbelief that you can do so? Or is it because you truly want to move on to greener pastures? I mean, so it really does depend on um, where it's stemming from, right? I guess the uncertainty, getting clear on, why is it first and foremost? Because if it's genuinely that you just don't have a desire for your SP anymore, then naturally I would recommend not doing that. But if you do have a desire to manifest a specific person, but the only thing that's stopping you is doubts that you can, I would, I wouldn't short sight yourself in that case, right? I wouldn't tell you to give up and throw away something that you truly desire. So it really does depend on where that uncertainty is stemming from. I hope I'm making sense. um, but can you manifest an SP if we're unsure if we want them back? Maybe. And that's the other thing. Um, because to be unsure about something is to be double minded. So if we're going back and forth, if we want this person or not, if we want to manifest this person or not, that's gonna be challenging to live in that end, right? Like, the whole reason we need to define our aim is so that we can know what our end is, so we can go live there in our imagination. So, I would absolutely recommend getting clear on that first, and first by starting, where where you're feeling unsure and why. Yeah, I hope that helps. Is it true that subconscious beliefs are trapped in the body? Limiting beliefs. Is it true that limiting beliefs are trapped in the body? And if so, what might be the best way to safely release them? That is a really good question. Um, I I mean, certainly the effects of limiting beliefs, like any sort of the we can have physical effects from psychological fears and doubts. That is certainly a thing. Um, yeah. And if I know there are many different medicines and treatments, like acupuncture, for example, is a way to release uh, limiting beliefs and pains left by uh, disturbances in our spiritual energy. And that's been around for thousands of years. So, who am I to discredit that? Right. Um, so I know that absolutely we can have physical effects of the limiting beliefs and fears that we have 100%. And how can we get rid of it? I mean, a fantastic way that helped me with reducing anxiety was something as common as breathing exercises, breath work, right? Learning to really take control of the breath and really, you know, paying attention to when I was holding my breath out of fear and anxiousness and just catching myself and letting myself release and things like that. So breath work. Um, Many people swear by EFT tapping. Uh, Actually, uh, the National Institute of Health here in the United States did a bunch of research on EFT tapping, and what they found was incredible um, as far as like success, as far as people really finding relief from those methods. A lot of people find relief from EFT tapping. Whether or not that's purely placebo, I don't know, but either way, if it works, it works. Right? So, yeah, breath work and EFT tapping are 2 ways that I've personally used them to alleviate and reduce my anxiety, my depression, and certainly many other people have as well. So, yeah. I don't know what is with this feeling of my manifestation feeling like it's on the edge, like it's right there, but not. I don't know how to explain that feeling. Like some sense of knowing it feels unexplainable. Yeah, that's pretty that's normal. That feeling like your manifestation is, like, right there, it's right on that edge, yeah. Yeah, that's normal, that's good, that's good. It becomes a sense of knowing. Absolutely. Yeah. No, there's nothing wrong with that. As you continue to build your faith on this journey and as you just become more immersed in that new state of consciousness, you're gonna notice more and more feeling like that. Your manifestation or your desire doesn't seem so far away anymore. Yeah. Wish I have a question about revision. How do some people forget the original memory entirely, and some talk openly about the experience they revised? What's the best experience internally? That's a really good question, Mimi, and correct me if I am confused, but basically, how do some people forget the original memory once they revised it, and some talk openly? So why do some people forget the experiences and others don't? Or how is it that revisions erases some memories but not others? I think is what you're trying to ask. Um, and for me personally, there are absolutely memories that I have that I know they are revised memories, but for the life of me, I don't remember what the old memory was or that old story was. I don't. I don't. Um, and there are things that I have revised, and I do know what the old story was. And for me, it really came down to there were some things that I absolutely just needed to wipe off the face of the earth. There were some memories that I truly did not have any reason or need or want to keep that in my awareness, right? I didn't want to continue to be aware of things that had happened that were detrimental, right? Um, yeah, that it really was that simple. But there were aspects of the old story that I can talk about some aspects of my old story now from a place of detachment. I have literally no attachment to any of the things that are relation to the old story, like none. So, and I in part keep that around so as to educate people, right? To help talk about things and some of the things that I know that I had experienced, but I am no longer attached to that state. I no longer dwell in that place whatsoever. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that answered your question about with revision, why sometimes we erase the memory and sometimes we don't. And if I'm totally wrong, let me know. But, yeah, for me personally, there were things that I revised. I mean, clearly, they had no reason being there anymore, and that's why I don't remember what the old story was. Yeah. "Hi, Missy. Is it okay to imagine different scenes, but all of them depicting the end?" Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We don't have to stick to one scene per se. I mean, if you would rather do that, if that is your preference, you're obviously welcome to do that. But we can have as long as the end, the theme, right? As long as the end implies what you desire, yeah, multiple scenes are fine. Tell myself the story. We have this MSP if we aren't sure if we want them back. No, okay. Is it okay to set up boundaries with your SP while manifesting them? Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Do whatever you need to do to take care of you. 100%. And if that is I mean, we should be setting boundaries, with everything that we do, right? We absolutely do not wanna subject ourselves to anything that is not ideal and potentially harmful or upsetting. Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, so 100%. Oh my god, Shelly, hi! Oh gosh, okay. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Let me make a note really quick to get right back to you. I think you probably wound up in a folder somewhere. Um, Make a note of that. No, much love to you. I will definitely be checking on that right after the live here. Thank you. So sorry about that. I think I know exactly what happened. Hi, Missy. Going through IVF soon and still telling myself the old story. Any specific suggestions on how to live in the end? And touch on revisions. Been a 20-year journey and I'm over 40. Oh, leash. No, it's naturally if it's been something the if the old story is something that we have been faced with for a long period of time for I mean 20 years is quite a journey. So understandably there will be fear there naturally. Um I think that the first thing that I would do is I mean and maybe you are already doing it, but as much as you can, as often as you can, I would just scope out as many IVF success stories. I would just keep the idea with planting this new seed or this new impression subconsciously, this new story is just keep immersing yourself in imagination. Just keep like you want it to be in the conscious forefront, like the what you desire ultimately and what you do want. So I would, just have a file, a folder of all IVF success stories, even when it seemed impossible, even if it seemed miraculous, and pick your absolute favorites as a go-to for any time that you may find yourself starting to go back to that old story and question and spiral. Like, have something there to, help you to give you that motivation again when you may really need it, right? Um, Because and in fact, many people have had successful IVF utilizing the law, utilizing imagination. I personally know people that have done that, and each one was over 40, right? So first, it's sort of getting familiar with the idea that this is possible for me, and that's really where we want to, at the very least, start. If we cannot have full faith and conviction, and I understand that it's sometimes difficult to do that. But if we can just get behind the idea of this is possible for me. Like if it's possible for others, it's possible for me, right? So, you know, finding and scoping out the very best IVS success stories, keeping them closely at hand to turn to in times where you may start to worry or doubt. And just remember this is all about keeping it as much in awareness, right? The successful outcome that you do want. And very much keep that in awareness as much as possible. And when it comes to revision, absolutely. I would revise, perhaps if there was the last cycle that wasn't successful, I would revise it and things like that. But I made a couple of videos talking about revision. If you go type in Missy Renee revision in the YouTube search bar, a few videos will pop up. I go a lot more in depth in those videos. So definitely do check those out if you haven't yet. But yeah, just immerse yourself. Keep going back to those success stories and building up on the idea that this is possible for me, this can happen, and continue to grow from there. You are so welcome, Luna. Thank you, Shelly. Thank you. I'm glad I was born too. Thank you. It's so good to hear from you. I will definitely we gotta catch up. Is there a way to create your desires and wishes in a specific order that you want them to manifest, or does that just create a block? Um, is there a way to create Your wishes in a specific order? You mean specific events happening in a certain order, right? I mean, you absolutely can. If there are things that you desire to see happen first before others, I would focus right now, I guess, on what you ideally want to see happen next, right? So if there's anything that feels more like you want to experience this now, then let you let yourself occupy that state now, right? Um I mean, that said, we do wanna make sure that we're not trying to micromanage everything, like, consciously figure out how all this needs to unfold. But if there are things that you want to experience first and foremost and then later have other things come in, you can absolutely do that. Yeah, yeah. And I would, in that case, stick to imagining the things that you do want to experience sooner versus later. Yeah. I've tried revision and can't seem to convince myself of the new story. How do I override the old story effectively? Good question. Okay, and this one's going to sound pretty backwards, so bear with me. Um, the way that we convince ourselves of that new story is to stop trying to convince ourselves of the new story. Because the, because on the one hand, that's a fantastic way for ego pushback, and that's one of the main reasons that people struggle with revision. And I certainly had this myself. Was I tried to convince myself that this thing happened, like this other event happened. I tried to tell my subconscious mind, like, no, 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 it was this new happy event. I swear. And I, you know, and my mind called me out on my BS. So yeah, we can't convince ourselves that way, like through conscious effort or force, basically. Um, but instead, the way that we want to approach revision is first understand that again, we're thinking quantum, right? We're thinking infinite states, infinite possibilities. So we're not denying that this past event happened to us. We're just understanding that there's also a reality, there is also a state where a different outcome had happened as well. Like, so we're just exploring that state. We're exploring that alternate outcome, right? And taking that approach to it, right? By just going somewhere in imagination because it feels better to do so. Not that we're trying to convince ourselves that something happened or didn't happen is going to come with much less resistance. So and I guess the point is like the more that we imagine minus effort, minus trying to, that's how we override. That's how we become like that's how it becomes subconsciously impressed, subconsciously accepted, right? So we just continue to imagine that other hypothetical state, right? The desired past event, the desired revised event, and we just visit it from a place of understanding that I'm just exploring, right? I'm not denying or dismissing that this other thing happened. I'm just letting myself explore a different state and if this outcome had happened instead. And just continuing to go back to that when you don't have that resistance, that's how you override. It's a really good question. Thank you for the super chat, John. I intend that if I send this, I get everything I want. Give me. My friend, it is yours. It is all yours. Your world is at your command, sir. Is it better to affirm that your SP is already with you, committed living together, or affirm like most people use SP loves me and misses me? Can you share some of your affirmations with your SP? Absolutely. Is it better to affirm that your SP is already with you, committed living together, or affirm that SP loves me and misses me? Okay. So should we go to the end or should we affirm that they love and miss us? I mean, always go to the end. Always go to the end. Basically, imagine that you and SP are already together. Like you're going to that state of consciousness in imagination. Like you're stepping into that world in your mind, right? Because to say that your SP loves you and misses you, right? By saying that, well, we're going to manifest, yes, we'll manifest them loving us and missing us, but missing implies that it's separate from you. If you're affirming that somebody misses you, you're implying they're separate from you because you don't miss somebody that you're with, right? I mean, unless I'm missing something here. I notice it's a very common affirmation, like SP loves me and misses me. Like, but to miss somebody implies that you're still separate. What are you doing? So yes, go to the end. Go to the end. Yes. Yeah, and some affirmations. Um when I manifested my person back for good, because there was times where it didn't stick. But the time that it did stick, I actually didn't really use affirmations. Mm-mm. No. Anytime that I did, it was something that resonated. I always, if I ever do use affirmations, I use them in a way that resonates, that feels good, right? That something that I can get behind, something that I can be on board with. Um, and that again, that's just me personally. But yeah, affirm that it's already done. You're already together, and um, ideally with affirmations that help you to tap into that feeling, help you to tap into that state, what it would feel like in that, living in that world where you and SP are back together. So I hope that makes sense. Hey, Missy, if things with SP were left in a very bad place and unresolved important and there were unresolved important things last time we spoke, would you simply focus on the new state or revise bad parts first? Good question. Um, Absolutely. If you're noticing that there's a lot, if it feels like there's a lot of fear or doubt or disbelief stemming from the past events, like if they are having an effect on you that is affecting your ability to live in the end, then absolutely I would revise it. Um, if they're not, if you are able to just completely accept living in the end, like going straight to living in the end, and you're not having any old story of the past come up for you, then that's fine too. But I am a huge proponent of revision, especially if we keep remembering the old story, if we're constantly going back to old fights and old things that happened that were unwanted, then absolutely I would revise. 100,000%. Hello, Robin. Hi. Hello. I I don't know when you got here because I'm probably way behind, but hello. Any tips for not focusing on the concept of time running out for SP and I? Absolutely. Yeah, And I know that that's one major hindrance that we have when it comes to the time, right? And the fear that time is running out. Uh, I mean, the first thing that I would do is remind myself. I would remember that first and foremost, time isn't real. It's an illusion. I know most of us don't accept that fully, but just helping yourself remember that time is not a thing that needs to be a concern because we're not dealing with time, we're dealing with states of consciousness, right? We're dealing with infinite realities, and these realities are eternal. Um, so there's always a state of consciousness where you and your person are already back together. That's always going to be a thing. It's never not going to be a thing. That is so what you choose to do because that state of consciousness already exists, right? Um, and the other thing would be to naturally continue to build trust and faith in the law. It's one of those things that truly we don't have to fully believe that the law works for it to work. The law is always working whether we believe in it or not. But for the sake of our own double-mindedness and for our own ability to suspend disbelief, it's going to be exponentially easier if there's trust. If there's trust. Right? If you can be fully trusting that what you imagine does in fact become your reality, that's going to negate any of these other fears or doubts that are stemming from a very limited ego mind, right? So, yeah, I would just continue to remind yourself that time isn't real, that there's a state of consciousness always in existence where the two of you are back together, right? And then at the same time, continuing to build your trust and faith in the law. Yeah. So I hope that helps. I know the whole time concept is a very challenging one at times. I get it. We're all conditioned by it. It feels like we're all moving along this timeline, but yeah, that's never the case. How can we manifest health, such as reversal of disease? Do we manifest the disease to begin with? Good question. Well, first and foremost, I did make a video talking about manifesting health, and in my experience with manifesting, being cured of an autoimmune disorder, a very debilitating autoimmune disorder at that. So I would definitely check out that video that I made. But when it comes to the reversal of a disease, yeah, I would first and foremost revise being diagnosed to begin with, or instead of being diagnosed with said disease, imagine the doctor giving you that all your blood work and all your results came back totally normal, like complete bill of health. And I would continue to go back to that revised scene. I would continue to revise that. If that feels challenging to do, then you can also imagine cure, right? Imagine receiving results in the future of being cured of said disease. So either way, whether that's revising the diagnosis to begin with, imagining a healthy outcome. If the revision part feels too difficult to do, you can always imagine in the future receiving results from your doctor that you're healthy. Yeah, but definitely check out the video that I made talking about health. That one I think you will find helpful. Hi, Missy. Hope you are having a nice day. Oh, thank you, Dasha. You too. My question is, what kind of techniques did you practice for self-healing while manifesting your SP? Thank you. That's a good question. So, for self heal, you mean changing the conception of self? My self-concept, basically? Um, Mainly it was well, first and foremost, revision. I had revised many of the instances of the past where I had formed very limiting beliefs, times of the past where I was hurt, and left with impressions that were not ideal. I certainly always recommend it for that reason. Revision alone radically changed my life. But I mean, the other things that I would do is just continue to build this new reality in my mind. I would see first I got very clear on what that version of me looks like as far as what are the values, what are the beliefs that I do hold, like the version of me that is in this loving committed relationship with SP. Like how do I see myself from her eyes, from those eyes, right? Like the version of me that is in this healthy, wonderful relationship with SP, clearly there is, a deep-seated trust. So I'm trusting, right? I'm confident, right? So I got very clear with the qualities that would come with living in that state, and I would just practice embodying those. I would practice seeing through that through those lenses, right? And seeing through that scope, whether that be internal dialogues, internal conversations, hearing my friends congratulate me, hearing family talk about how much I've changed and how much I've grown and how much I've evolved as a person. So things that left the implication that I was now the person that had this wonderful committed relationship. I hope that makes sense. So basically, revision, did a lot of revision, and then I just got very clear and familiar with that version of me, right? Because I knew that to have a long-term committed relationship, to be in that state of somebody who has a long-term committed relationship, well, I would be having a very difficult time maintaining that state if I was still feeling very insecure about myself, if I was still feeling very fearful of competition, of other women, right? So I needed to see myself as very trusting and confident, and nurturing, compassionate, patient. So things like that. And once I got very clear on that version of Missy Renee, I started to literally see life through her eyes in my mind, in imagination. I hope that makes sense. I do need to make a video maybe talking more in detail, about what that whole journey was like. Hello, hello. Sorry, guys, one sec. I'm trying to find my spot. I lost my spot. Let me see. Oh, my apologies if I missed somebody's question. I'm so sorry. I do not mean the chat likes to jump around a lot, so if I do miss anybody's question, it is not intentional. I'm so sorry, you guys. Hey, Missy, any tips for staying on track during a long Sabbath? I started Sabbath in November, and the tiny movement I got, after a tiny bit of movement, it got super hard because of tons of ego backlash that resurfaced. Um, any tips for staying on track? So, so I get the first thing I would ask, are you still in the Sabbath, or did you fall out of the Sabbath because of the backlash? Um, that's the only thing I would have to I to give, an answer that would be most beneficial would be, like, are you back in the Sabbath, and you are, wanting tips to sort of maintain or stay on track, or is it getting back into after a stint of ego backlash? Yeah. It would sort of depend on where you are currently, right? But I do also plan on emailing you this afternoon, because we do need to get together soon. There's a lot of catching up to do. Don't know if you know, this is the holy month of Ramadan. In the month of Ramadan, how can I manifest something like magnificent results or desired results? Oh, that's wonderful. So, how can you manifest something this month? Um, well, I would find whatever method, if there is a technique, or if there is a certain method or way that helps you to better immerse yourself in that desired outcome, like whatever the desire is that you want to see or that you want to experience, whatever that looks like, go there in imagination, right? Continue to go there in imagination. That's sort of the premise here. That's the whole idea, because it's our imagination that creates everything in our experience, right? It's how we can change our beliefs and assumptions, is our imagination. So I would, get very clear on what you want, what it is that you desire, and once you have that, I would go with whatever feels best and whatever feels most natural to you. So whether that be affirmations, whether that be scripting, whether that be visualizing, but I would just continue to immerse yourself in that desired outcome, whatever that looks like, in imagination, right? And I would persist with that. I would continue to do that. And especially right now, being this your holy month, I think that this is the absolute best time for you to do so. Yeah. So I guess, first just sort of get clear on what techniques or what exercises help you to um, live in the end, as they say, in imagination, and continue to go back to that. Yeah. Hey, Missy, I'm having my uni entrance exam in 2 months, and I'm a bit behind on my peers. I've been told no matter how hard I study, it's impossible to pass now. Can I really manifest it? I'm having doubts. Yes, you can manifest anything. You can absolutely manifest anything. Don't pay mind in regard to the 3D or what somebody says to you. Those are your fears being expressed, right? Everyone is you pushed out. So if somebody's telling you something is impossible, it's because there is a belief that this is impossible now. No, literally nothing is impossible. Like, nothing is impossible, that I can promise. Now, you may have you may have double-mindedness, because it may be hard to accept that it's possible, right? So, there may be resistance to that idea that you can pass now, but ultimately, you can overcome that. You know, if you continue to imagine passing this exam, like, that's what I would be doing right now. I would just be seeing in my mind, I'm already passed. I'm already like, it's already done. No mind, no matter. And I would continue to go there. But I mean, to answer your question simply, yes, it is possible, because everything is possible. Literally everything. Hello, Belwick. Hello, I've recently been focused on building my self concept, but every time I sleep with self concept affirmation tapes, I have dreams of my SP telling me they don't want me. What does this mean? I'm sorry, downtown. Um, it's not uncommon. A lot of people have noted initial resistance to listening to self affirmation tapes. It's actually quite common when we first start listening to these tapes. Yeah, it is a backlash in a sense. I've talked to clients that would literally, like, rip their headphones out in the middle of the night, while they were sleeping. I mean, just everything to avoid hearing these new suggestions and ideas, right? Yeah. It's 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 basically some backlash going on, which is not uncommon, and it does subside, right? S So long as you continue, it will inevitably subside. It's not always going to bring things of nightmares. Now if it gets to a point where it's, unbearable, if it feels like it's something that is not good, don't force it, right? If you need to take a break from listening to affirmations for a moment, that's fine if it's something that is really bothersome, and I just wanna be clear about that, but this is not uncommon. Having these types of dreams or having these types of, um, resistance basically, and it will subside. Yeah, it's ego backlash that you're experiencing, basically. I can't imagine my desire with my SP. I tried for almost 2 years. Visuals of the opposite and all go downhill. Is mind control possible? I'm a little lost with no movement. I'm so sorry, Sina. I remember that. I remember the feelings of frustration very much. Like, yeah, I'm so sorry. Mind control? No, no. We're not controlling somebody else's mind. That's that's not what's happening here. Um, when we talk about manifesting a change in somebody, what we're talking about really, what's really happening is you're moving yourself into a state where they already have that mind, like, that version of them has this mindset that is more ideal, right? So, if we desire to see a change in RSP, perhaps they've been cold and distant, and we desire to see them warm and loving. Well, we are moving into the state where that version of them is already warm and loving and inviting. Right, but we're not controlling the mind of the person outside of you. No, no. The only one changing truly is us. There is no one to change but self. So, and I'm truly sorry that this has been such a journey for you. Missy, I was thinking, if beliefs and assumptions are part of a state, then it is not the beliefs and assumptions that are actually if the beliefs and assumptions are part of a state, then it is not the beliefs and assumptions that actually manifest, but the state. What do you think? Um, Yeah, no, it's the state that manifests, yes. Yeah, the state of consciousness, when we talk about the 3D manifestation, it's the state ultimately that manifests. Though it is our beliefs and assumptions that sort of determine what state we occupy, right? Like, that's the gauge that we've been using unconsciously to move and navigate through states, is belief and assumption. Yeah. The state of consciousness is ultimately what we are seeing in the 3D. And the state of consciousness comes with its own body of beliefs and assumptions, thoughts, events, actions, reactions, things like that. But yeah, it's the state. You would be correct. Yep, goat girl. That is she's absolutely correct there. Do you still worry about the future sometimes or experience anxiety about circumstances in any form? Or does truly knowing that you're the opera power come with always being able to stay calm and chill? Good question, Lissy. Do I personally still worry about the future sometimes? No. Mm-mm. I mean, first, because there is no single future as far as, like, us on a timeline goes. Um, do I have moments where I get annoyed or I have a reaction? Yeah, it still happens. It still happens sometimes. It's not that we're never ever gonna have a reaction ever again, but do I worry about the future? No. Mm-mm. No, when you know, understand, and believe in the law, there is nothing to fear. Like, what is there to fear when the future is literally infinite oop, literally infinite possibilities. It's infinite states, and ultimately, I get to decide what that is. Do you know what I mean? No. So, I mean, it really does am I able to stay calm and chilled out versus how I was before? Yeah, it's pretty night and day. Yeah. I do still absolutely have moments. I do absolutely, like, get caught up in the 3D for a quick second, but I've gotten much better at pulling myself back into yeah, and back out of that rather quickly, yeah. Yeah, I don't dwell on unwanted hypothetical scenarios anymore, no. And I notice a lot of people have the same question about frustration with lack of movement, which is, of course, understandable. But we have to really pay attention to when that happens, because if you're noticing frustration, if you become aware of frustration because of no movement, redirect, right? We're not looking to the 3D. We are not looking to the 3D. Say it with me, guys. We're not doing that anymore. So if we catch ourselves because it's habit, it's completely habit, and I get that. Like no shame or guilt or any of that. But if we catch ourselves, we just want to say, "Hey, indication. Okay, you've been starting to go out there again. You're starting to wander on the outside 3D world. Like, bring it back around." That should be your cue to bring it back around. Bring it back around. This is all dealing with the internal world. This is all the inner man, all the inner man. So if we're noticing and like getting frustrated and anxious and impatient about no movement, that should be our cue that hey, I need to turn this around, go back within, and continue to go to that place in imagination. That's really what we must start getting ourselves in the habit of doing. Yeah. I know it can feel really frustrating, but again, we're not like if we're just jumping through technique hoops to get a change on the outside, this is how we get stuck in this pattern because that's still perpetuating and keeping us in the habit of looking to the 3D. And ultimately it's never going to like by chasing things in the 3D or continuing to observe the absence of things in the 3D is not going to manifest what we want. So I know it's frustrating, but inevitably you do get to a place where you're not even looking anymore because it's not about the 3D. It's not. I promise. Missy, when you were in the final weeks of manifesting your SP, how did it feel different than manifesting before this? Was it more knowing or more not needing the manifestation to come to pass? Good question, Ashley. So when God. So leading up to when my person came back, it was a little bit of both, but it was both. It was more a feeling of uh, I don't I was no longer attached to the needing this to happen, right? Like, oh, I didn't have any more of that urgency. I didn't have any more of that almost desperation, right? The wanting him back was gone. That was a big one. Um, and there was also a knowing. Yeah, there was. It just it felt confident. It felt certain. It just felt right. It's hard to put it into words truly when you're in the Sabbath, but one of the biggest indications that we are in the Sabbath is we don't it almost feels like we don't want them anymore. Not and it's not that we don't, but it's just that we're no longer in the state of desiring for them, right? Even Neville talks about this. When you're in the Sabbath, you're no longer in the state of desiring because you already have it. And you can't desire something that you already have, right? You just you don't do that. We don't do that. Um, so it was both a knowing and a not needing because I wasn't in a state of desire anymore. I was in the state of having it. Yeah. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. And for some people it can almost feel like, yeah, do I even want this person anymore? And it's we do. We're just not used to being in a state where there's not a desiring for them. Hope that helps. Missy, you might remember me asking about how I can manifest my gay friend to have feelings for me. I have often daydreamed about us having a child. This week, he asked me if I'd have a baby for him. It's a perfect example of the law in action. That's awesome. Yes, definitely Apollo. What you're describing is absolutely like from what you are describing, that feeling of like it's done, it's right there. I don't need to worry anymore is as absolutely good indication. But yeah, yeah, you're good. You're good, my friend. Is it better to manifest an SP in steps or go directly to the end? I mean, it is all like ideally if we, once we are able to or when we are able to, going to the end, right? When possible, go to the end. If there is a lot of resistance, and I know that there's a lot of back and forth about manifesting in steps versus going to the end. I know there's a lot of that in this community, and it is better if we are able to go to the end. However, if there are if we notice a lot of resistance coming up, if we feel it is difficult to suspend disbelief and allow ourselves to go there, if it feels like we can resonate more with the next step, whatever that looks like, be it reconciliation, be it moving in together, whatever that might be. Um, then absolutely do that. However, it is important to note that if we're manifesting in steps, we must continue imagining. Where people get messed up in manifesting in steps is they'll imagine receiving a text message and have the expectation that that's gonna continue leading them to marriage, like, in and of itself. Or then, like, once the person is back in contact, they'll go straight back to, like, reacting to the 3D, right? So, that's really the biggest thing, like, if we're, because 'cause we're always manifesting in steps anyway, that's what we're doing in our day-to-day anyway, um, at least for most things, I would say. So if there's a lot of resistance to going in the end, if it doesn't feel like if it feels like it's a battle for you to do so, I mean, yeah, go the path of least resistance, of course, but it's just important that we have to remember to keep going. And it's something that we should be doing anyways, because the entire premise of this philosophy is your imagination is creating your reality and it's always doing that. So we want to get in the habit of continuing to imagine what we want. We should only be imagining what we want to experience, right? So just continue to do so, I guess is my point that I'm trying to say here. If it feels more natural to imagine a reconciliation, just, when that comes to pass, then continue to imagine the next thing and like keep going, basically. Yeah. Hi, Missy. I'm trying to revise my childhood, poverty, narcissistic father, etc. It feels amazing when I am imagining the new story, but I keep thinking about the old one. Does it get easier? Yes. Yeah, good question, Giselle. And yes, it does get easier. I promise. I promise. At first, we want to also remember that a lot of these ideas are still very new to us. Even if you've known about the law for a year or more, compared to decades of operating this unconsciously, like these are still fairly new ideas, right? So it absolutely does take practice and conditioning this new way of thinking, right? Exercising this new way of thinking. But 1000% it gets easier. Yeah. And inevitably you're gonna notice that those old memories are going to be replaced by the new ones. Like when you think about whatever happened, it's gonna be the new memory that comes up to you instead. Yeah. Missy, I'm manifesting a person I don't know well. This past week, I've started to feel like I know we'll be together. And when I wake up in the morning, I feel this strong anticipation. Is that normal? Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's normal. And that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Like the more that we start to imagine, we're going to naturally take on that feeling. It's going to, like, we're going to start feeling that way in the day to day. Yeah. Waking up in the morning, feeling the strong anticipation, feeling like a knowing yes, that's wonderful. That is wonderful to see. Oh my goodness. My apologies. We are all dragons. I did not even see the super chat. I did not even see a notification for this. I'm so sorry. I don't know how long ago you asked this question. Oh my god. Suggestions on how to revise past rejections. I feel resistance because I feel like I would have ended up with that person and I don't want that anymore. Suggestions on how to revise past rejections. I feel resistance because I feel like I would have ended up with that person and I don't want that anymore. So so how to revise past rejections from exes or old flames, and the resistance stems from if I didn't get rejected, then I would still be with that person? I assume that's what you mean? And I don't want to be with that person? Well, and that's sort of us creating the circumstance, in our mind. When we revise, we just want to whatever the event, whatever if there was a certain event or circumstance or conversation that was had that was hurtful, that was, where you were rejected and, obviously where that impression came from, um, just like we're just revising that. And we don't want to allow ourselves to get carried away with, well, then all of these other things would have happened. Like we start creating a whole new timeline consciously, um, I think is what you're saying. Uh, because the resistance is stemming from, well, if he didn't reject me, then we would still be together and I don't like him anymore. Like that is what I'm assuming you mean. Um, and that's not necessarily the case. No. No. We're more so than what took place in the 3D, we're revising to remove the impression. Because if the event didn't happen, if something didn't happen that impressed that idea or that concept, we would be acting and reacting from another place entirely, right? Like if you revise a fight where that fight was a rejection and it left an impression that people reject you, if you revise that event and make it so that that seed was never planted in the first place, then you are not going to continue to carry that belief that people reject you. And that's the entire premise, right? We are removing these impressions, we are uprooting these impressions, and then that's it. That's really the long and short of it. Um, I know our mind. I know we want to like create all of these scenarios of what would have happened then and what would have done this. Like to the best of our ability, we just want to focus on uprooting that bad seed, uprooting the undesirable and unwanted impression. That's all. Hello, hello. Oh crap. I do have to get going soon, you guys. I got time for maybe one or two more questions. I'm so sorry. I think people get confused because the community says reality creation. What we're really when really we're choosing our ideal reality. Yeah, that is a really important thing to note. I'm actually have that on my topics idea of videos to make. We're not actually creating anything. And I and I know that's where people get confused, because creation is already finished, right? To us in the 3D, it may look like we are creating something new, like we are putting something where there was nothing before, right? But we are more selecting and choosing. Like what is actually happening, what is actually going on is we're always just selecting and choosing. We're not making anything new. No, creation is already finished. That's a really good point, Britt. Thank you for bringing that up. Um, how can we manifest getting into our dream school even if we don't meet all the requirements? See yourself on your first day at that school. Like, Picture yourself in that dorm or that classroom. Just see yourself, looking at your new school ID. Anything that implies that you are now admitted, don't worry about anything in the middle of that. Don't worry about like, as far as what we want to imagine, we're just going to a place that implies that I am now a student at this school. And whatever needs to happen to get you from where you are now to that will happen. It will happen unconsciously. We don't know what that looks like, but it will happen. Oh, okay. Thank you again for the super chat. We are all dragons. I love your name, by the way. I love that name. I've asked I've asked others out and was rejected. Okay. I'm seeing that play out in my 3D again, and I don't want that. Okay. Okay. I'm seeing that play out. So um how to revise moments where we were rejected? Well, I would do just okay, okay, I see what you mean. So the resistance to revising that is that you no longer have interest in those people that you did have interest in before, right? I hope I'm understanding this. Basically, what all we want to do with revision is understand that this is just a way of us to like let ourselves imagine, let ourselves play in a hypothetical reality. This all states exist hypothetically first in imagination and then become our 3D experience. So when we revise, we're just removing those. It's still the kind of the same thing that I was saying before. Like we're just removing that seed that the impression that you get rejected or that people reject you or anything like that. It's just helping to remove that. So I would imagine, I would play in this hypothetical reality where in that time frame, in that timeline, so to speak, I was not rejected. That doesn't mean that you have to be with that person again, right? If it was somebody from years ago that you have no interest in anymore, it doesn't mean that it's gonna, have to become of that. It doesn't mean that that is going to happen. We just want to focus on reconditioning those impressions, right? So anything that implies that that was not the case, even if that is that they accepted, right? They accepted your advancement, whatever that looks like. And if there's resistance there, we're just reminding ourselves that this is just to play an imagination with this hypothetical reality because we want to remove an impression. We want to experience something in our imagination that is more ideal instead, so we can become more familiar with that feeling instead of the feeling of rejection. I hope that makes sense. You are so welcome. Yeah, you getting those degrees? Hell yeah. So just imagining the end will make them conform. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're just imagining we're just imagining that end scenario. Yeah. Sabbath still s Sabbath sounds almost like when you've had your fill of cake. You still like cake, but in the moment you're satisfied. Yes! Yes, that is a perfect analogy. The Sabbath is like when you've had your fill of cake. You still like cake, it's still yummy, it's still good, but in that moment, you're satisfied. Like, you don't need any more. That's it. That's it. Hi, Missy, do you have any tips on how to manifest a new home when you don't have specific details and location in mind? Thank you. Absolutely. So, if you don't have you don't necessarily need specifics, as if you don't mind or care. If you do have specific areas in mind that you want to live out, that, you can add those details later, but I would do something as simple as holding the key in your hand, right? Holding the key to your house, that implies that you have a new house, right? Or imagining a conversation with a loved one or a family member and hearing them congratulate you on the new place. Right, something that we would already be doing in that day to day, in that timeline, right? In that reality, something like that. If you don't know exactly what it looks like and you maybe have difficulty with visualizing all those details, I would just imagine holding the new key or having a conversation. It's more about what is implied versus all of the details of, like, the technical details of what everything looks like. It's just what is this implying, right? When I started to go off of that, imagining things for, like, what is implied, things got exponentially easier for me. Also, I just wanted to share that I have a Also, I just want to share that I have manifested my SP back in 2 weeks. He left me a love note in my purse, and I bursted out laughing when I saw my exact affirmations written on it. Oh, that's amazing. Go Games, that is so awesome. Congratulations. That is so awesome. And yes, it is it's an incredible feeling too when you start seeing or hearing those affirmations or what was being said in imagination, now you're hearing them out loud. Yeah, that's a trip. Like, I never get used to that. That is an amazing story, isn't it, Go Girl? Oh, you guys are the best. You guys are the absolute best. That is awesome. Uh, Unfortunately, guys. Oh, wait, damn it. Alright. Thank you for the super chat, Rita. I will go ahead. I recently saw some movement this week, but it made me anxious more. How can I stabilize my state? I was relaxed last week and kept my daily routine. So, how to stabilize the state? You were relaxed last week, until you saw once you saw movement in the 3D, that's what made you anxious? Was that okay, so how to keep ourselves more stabilized and grounded in what we're imagining versus the 3D? Um, Really, it's one of those things that I mean, since we're seemingly living and interacting with the 3D world, we are just so primed and conditioned to what's happening in the 3D. It's subconscious, right? At this point, it really is subconscious. Um, the best thing to do is, when we notice this anxiousness, like, through observation, when we become aware that we're anxious and we're feeling this sort of like, oh crap feeling because movement's happening, it's just a reminder of, hey, let's go back into that state of the wish fulfilled. Like, you may have momentarily fallen out of it. You may have momentarily, got distracted by 3D circumstance and whatnot, but Let's just use that as an invitation to go back into our imagination and do just that. Inevitably, you will get to a place where it's not going to have this kind of effect. It's really it's that I can promise you. And the fact that you were really relaxed last week and you were able to sort of maintain a daily routine with this, right? Living in the end, that's fantastic to hear. That's fantastic to hear. Just again, when we have those anxious moments, if we're starting to take note of that, it's just feedback. It's just feedback saying, "Okay, yeah, let's I fell out of that state for a minute. I started to creep back into the 3D again because that's what we're used to doing. I'm just going to go back to my imagination now. I'm just going to go back in. I'm just going to go back in." And I know it sounds exhausting to those who have not put this into practice, but it becomes so second nature that you don't even think about it anymore. Like I literally don't think about it anymore. It's like driving a car, right? The first times that you're doing it, you're freaked out, you're nervous as hell, you're anxious, you have no idea what the hell you're doing. And then before you know it, you're just doing it without even thinking about it. The same is implied for all of this, right? For going inwards, for going back into imagination instead of getting ourselves fixated out there. But it is, the patterns that we need to form first to get there. But you will. And that's the point, is you absolutely will. So if you find yourself feeling anxious, again, it's just feedback indication that, okay, I need to go back within. All is good. At the end of the day, you're the operant power. Like the 3D has no power over you. So no matter what happens out here, it's all from in here anyways, right? Truly, there is nothing to be anxious or fearful about. But in the interim, until we fully believe that, just use it as an invitation to go back inside. Yeah, movement is a good thing. That we want to see movement. That's a good thing, right? No need to let any anxious thoughts let you get carried off into something else. No, no. That's exactly what is supposed to happen. Anyways, you guys, I do have to get going, unfortunately. Uh, but this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Sincerely, thank you guys so much again. I will, yeah, I'll be back next week. I hope you will too. And in the meantime, everybody take care. Much love. Don't forget, you guys. It's all up here. Much love, guys. Wow.